We'll wait till. Cool.
All right, ready when you are. This is the call to order. This is German Village Commission hearing. Today is May 1st, 2024. It is 4:01 p.m. We're here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. The next business meeting will be Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024 at 12 noon. Here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, next door, room 205. The next hearing will be Wednesday, June 5th, 2024 at 4 p.m. here in the same place, same room. We'll go ahead and we'll swear in staff. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Nicole Erst.
Thank you very much. We'll go over the commissioners present, starting on the left.
Robin Strom.
Ned Thiel.
Anthony Herkey, chair.
Rachel Schultz.
Karen McCoy.
Do you have any items for public forum?
We do, yes.
Yes, that's.
Good evening, good afternoon. Yes, it's just.
We need to call anything in first or just?
I don't believe so. This is a representative from the
Okay.
city.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I heard public forum. I was like, I'm ready to do this. I am here on behalf of the director's office. I'm Erin Prosser. I'm a deputy director in the Department of Development. And this is Historic Preservation Month. So as we think about the work that you guys do as we are a growing city and the importance of maintaining and preserving some of the most precious things in our city, the director's office just wanted to come and offer that thanks. And I was looking, our lovely planning staff has provided talking points for me, and I don't know if you guys know this information, but the range of service here is between 3 months and 18 years of commitment to the German Village neighborhood. You guys oversaw 403 applications and issued 303 certificates of appropriateness last year. That's quite extraordinary. I was looking at the other commissions. I was trying to figure out if you guys were coming out on top. Are they? I think they might be. Yeah, you guys are coming out on top. So you have that, you're cranking through. The rest of them are slackers. You guys are coming in on top for that one. The work has created more than 129,000 square feet of buildings that were affected and an investment of a little over $25 million that's come through this commission. My role at the city is around housing strategies, right? Which is this very challenging time where we're growing in population, but not necessarily growing enough of our housing infrastructure. And so I know that you all are in this very individual position in the growth of our city and to how to balance preservation with progress. And I know that there are cases that are challenging for you guys. And as you're navigating that space, I know you're often in a seat where that is particularly challenging. So on behalf of the director, on behalf of the city, as Historic Preservation Month and the wonderful planning staff we have in our department, just thank you for that service and, making sure that as a friend, Michael Wilkos always says, we want to live in a city worthy of human affection. But we also want to make sure that there's affordable housing opportunities, and figuring out how to balance those two pieces is the challenge before us. And so your service is a big part of how we accomplish that, and we can end up with a city we still dearly love, but also a place where people can afford to live. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing that, you're all getting a 10% raise.
You take some dinner.
I thought in the backyard.
You're on.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, thank you guys.
So much. If I can real quick, I'll just make a quick plug. Since you mentioned Historic Preservation Month, German Village Society is also hosting events during the Preservation Month. Tomorrow night is their new Mayfest Gala, Legends and Legacy, talking about some of the history of the German Village, some of the signature properties, signature people who have played a part. And then throughout the month, the Society is going to be putting on some free events for outreach. Columbus Landmarks is going to do a presentation. Some members from the commission, as well as Jamie Goodman from HPO, are going to do some Q&A with neighborhood. So anybody who's here or attending virtually, please feel free to avail yourself of those resources. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the staff approvals, and those begin on your agenda. That comes next.
Okay, sorry, I think I've done this before.
I think you did. Staff approvals begin on the bottom of page 4 of your agenda. Are there any recusals?
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself on 618 Mohawk Street, 619 Mohawk Street, and 634 Mohawk Street.
I need to recuse myself on the Waldheim condominiums. That's number 3 on the agenda.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the staff approvals.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second? Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Move on to the approval of minutes from last meeting, April 3rd, 2024. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got 2 seconds, dealer's choice. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. I'll move on to the applications for certificate of appropriateness. Item 1, GV-24-05-018, 772 Yeager Street. Applicant, come on up and take a seat. I need to recuse myself due to,
Oh.
it's my architect, my project. So, Mr. Thiel, board yours.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
I do.
State your names, please.
Amanda Dunfield, architect, founder of Astra Studios.
Andrew Samuelson, owner.
Nicole?
Yes, this is a request for action for an exterior building alteration. The proposed work description is a proposed revision to a previously approved addition. That addition was approved in GV-23-03-0-23. The revisions include a new egress window that has been added to the north elevation hyphen addition. The window is a gelled window. The hyphen addition has been shifted 8 inches south to allow enough setback from the property line. The second floor has expanded to be a full 2-story addition. Changes to the window layout configuration on the east elevation of the addition. The size has been modified to 22 feet by 16 feet 8 inches. And items a part of the original approval that has remained unchanged include the existing half-light door to be moved to the south elevation. Paint colors to be Sherwin-Williams SW6237 Dark Night. Shingles are Owen Corning standard 3-tab estate gray. The siding is 3-inch wood siding painted to the approved color. Windows of the gelled-win sightline with a wood interior. Gutters are 5-inch aluminum seamless white. The soffit is a 1/4-inch wood sheeting, and the flat roof will have a black rubber membrane. The staff analysis at the May business meeting, the commission did not have any additional comments or requests for the applicant. The staff recommendation is that staff recommends approval with any all clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of the certificate. And the basis for that recommendation is City Code 311612, standard for new construction A through N, and the German Village Guidelines for additions 1 through 5.
Any additional comments, clarifications, corrections?
The reason for this change was to get a window back in what became a landlocked bedroom and could not be used as a bedroom. So that's where this change came out of.
Plus your massing's got bigger. You expanded the second floor.
We did that because as we were shifting things around, it made for a very weird volume that was not very usable. This is easier to both construct and then more functional for the homeowners.
And that created the revisions to the fenestration on the east elevation.
Yes. Yes, we tried to just they basically take the window pattern that we had and separate them a little bit and raise it up to the second story.
Commissioners. Karen?
I don't have any comments.
I don't have any comments.
I think your massing is better. To be honest with you, I think it's a better solution. Do I have a motion?
Well,
Item number GV 2405-018-772 Yeager Street. Recommend approval as submitted. Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
You have approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's all right.
Let's try to get the number.
We're missing one meeting. Fail. Yeah.
Yeah, reorientation. Wait a minute, while the survey comes back.
Right.
We approved it without any conditions.
Okay. All right, moving on to item number 2, GV-24-02-014 Alpha, 791 Mohawk Street. Gonna have to sit in here. You both raise your right hand. Did we do this already? Not yet. Okay. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and the truth.
Yes.
Your name?
Susan Kaler.
Thank you.
David Kamiar.
Thank you.
This is a request for action. It's a continued application for an exterior building alteration for a window replacement. The work description is to replace the front east elevation window on the first floor. The current configuration is 2 1/1 double hung windows with a small mullion to be replaced with 1 large window. The staff analysis is the following, is taken from the March 2024 German Village Commission meeting minutes. The application was continued to allow the applicant time to provide updated materials for future hearing. The commissioner comments where the commission confirmed 3 windows were not appropriate or in line with the massing and rhythm of the primary facade. The commission recommended the applicant consider 1 large window, either with or without a transom window. And the applicant could also replace the window like for like with 2 windows with a mullion. If a proposed front porch restoration is submitted for review, the window configuration on the front elevation could be a part of the conversation around the design. The steps for the porch could be in the front as to not interact with the existing driveway gate, back from the front yard, and provided a new proposed gate. At the May business meeting, the commissioners made the following statements and recommendations. The commission requested an elevation drawing with a proposed single light fixed window in the window 1 location to provide a better visual for the commission at the hearing. And the commission would recommend adding a transom over the fixed single light window. HPO staff does agree with the commission's recommendation that if the applicant would like to pursue a fixed picture window, it would be more appropriate and traditional for a transom to be included above the picture window within the existing opening. The staff recommendation, there are 2 options, being that staff recommends to continue the application to allow the applicant to look into window configurations for window 1, or to recommend approval with any all clarifications with the following condition, and that condition being for the applicant to include a transom above the proposed picture window on the east elevation and submit revised drawings to HPO staff for final review and approval. The basis for that recommendation is City Code 3011611, standards for alteration, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11.
Anything else to add?
It was my understanding that the number 1 preference from the March German Village Commission meeting was that it was just the 1 large picture window. It's where it is as submitted.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Yeah, we asked at the business meeting for a drawing to illustrate that. For some reason, we didn't get.
What beyond what's submitted, what kind of drawing would you be
An
looking at?
elevation of the front showing what a single window would look like,
I get
or
you.
with a transom, is what the request was.
Hmm.
My opinion is a single window to fill that opening is a mid-century picture window, post-World War II, that probably was done in some houses, but would not be appropriate for this. And I go back and support what we have said before, but Historic Preservation Office said a transom would be much more appropriate over a single placed open.
We have explored a configuration with a transom, and at least through our discussions, it was cost prohibitive. But that's as far as that conversation.
Yeah, cost is not, of course, an issue to us.
Mhm.
Appropriate resolution in compliance with the guidelines.
Mhm.
Yes. So I don't think we have documentation here that we can move ahead, but that's just my opinion.
For clarification, cost is not first pass through. Cost is something that's considered as a financial hardship on appeal, not on first.
Yeah, and it's a different process.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments from the commission? I believe that a transom would look better. but I'm also on the fence of, this is not a traditional window size placement, in my opinion. So to me, would a single pane be worse or better than what's there? I think single pane is better than what's there currently.
I'm not sure. I think a single pane is worse. At least you got two windows there that are of the same proportions, not same size, but same proportions of what's on the second floor. There's nothing there right now that supports one large huge window. One maybe with a transom, because there are other ones that are historic. That does kind of follow some of the language that's in the village. It's certainly not a single window. It would have helped if we had a drawing.
Do you need to see like a house with a sample, one window in the front with a transom? Or you have already looked at what those look like?
We
Like in the
have
village?
not, I do apologize as far as missing the communication from the business meeting.
I was just gonna
We
say,
were-
if you go to 825 South Fifth Street, that's a good example of a picture window with a transom design at the top.
We were under the working assumption that based on the time spent at the previous commission meeting in March, that the number one preference was the large picture window.
My other concern from a contractor perspective is this window being 77 inches wide. What's the structure necessary to span that? And what's that gonna do to, if there was a transom, what would that do to the height of that transom? Would that be awkward height for the opening size?
Don't know what they would propose for that. Don't know.
This is the one that they're showing the transfer and
So
Depend on the size of the window.
Yeah, so
You can get them different dimensions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be custom made.
Right.
I don't think it's a set thing.
So to move the conversation forward, sounds like you have one potential for and four against, is what it sounds like. We can vote on it and probably deny that. We'll give you a denial, you can go to whatever appeals you want. The other options, we can continue the application. If you want to come back with a transom option with the elevation showing the detail of what that transom would be, that a meeting rail. Yeah, so those are the two options.
So it sounds like there's no moving forward with the current proposed.
I think the only path forward is a 1-4 against vote, which would
Okay.
be a negative vote.
Mhm. It-
So I don't.
It sounds
want to
very
offend you.
different from the last commission meeting. Is there a consensus on the transom so that when we bring it back, there would be no question?
I'm trying to remember exactly from our last meeting, but the notes here say that we said with or without transit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like since that was what was stated, that it doesn't, we shouldn't change that position at this meeting. However, I do think a drawing would be helpful, and we don't have that.
Is there an example of such a drawing that I could bring back?
Well, there's, in your package was a
Yeah,
more,
let it do a front elevation of the
Elevation.
house.
yeah, drawing that was done in, what was it, 1980?
From what I remember, we said a single window was better than what was there.
That's what I remember.
It was a single window is number one versus what was there.
Well,
Like for like
number
number
one, we
two.
just said it was better than what was there.
Yeah, at least out of the three options
That's,
discussed.
yeah, I'm not sure that was the final resolution.
But wasn't in the staff, where the staff recommendation was with a transom, or am I not hearing that
The
right?
staff recommendation from the Historic Preservation Office is with the transom for the approval.
It is the most appropriate.
Right.
Cause I thought it was a production issue for the size of that.
For venting.
Yeah, and I'll have to look at one.
Mhm.
Okay.
So then we opted for the single non-vent at the commission's recommendation from the last meeting in March.
But and the transom at the top wouldn't be a venting. It's just a fixed, yeah.
Yes.
Either way,
There was some discussion that you offered in the summary. I'm not sure what you call that, in the cover letter about a drawing showing the front of the house if we were to proceed with the porch. And there was, I recall, a little bit of conversation that the porch roof would probably obfuscate some of the reasons why I went to what I thought you were asking for with a single window was because I thought it sounded like you were amenable to a front porch, and at that point, the visuals of the front door and the front window would not be the most forward showing visual looking at the house. I didn't word that very well. So I would prefer to have a porch. I don't think that the transom will show if we put a roof on over top of the porch. And that's what I intended to move forward with, thinking that you all wanted a single pane. And then I conceded because I'd rather have a porch than a 3-pane window or a 2-pane window. So we're both just learning. You know, we were on the wrong track, I guess, because I didn't see the transom, and just to get everything all out. I see the line, you know, I mean, we did look into the transom. To get a vented transom was gonna be $14,000. So if you have, I heard hardship, that would be a hardship for me. So I'd be interested to hear what you meant by that.
So as far as vented versus non-vented, a fixed transom, I think is fine. The conversation about venting was more speaking to the last meeting when you were asking about the reason for wanting the double hung window, the triple double hung windows was to have airflow and movement of window.
Mhm.
I was going to mention having a hopper or some kind of vented transom to get airflow. Now with a single pane window, it seems as if this is from my perspective, that the desire to have operable window, operable sash is now removed from the equation, in which case would a fixed transom affect the price to get it more back to reasonable? So we're not talking about a operable transom, which may drive the price up.
Mhm.
So that may change the dynamics of the conversation. I guess it's a question of manufacturer.
yes, yeah, it would drive the price down still much more than as proposed.
Is my position that it might not even show if I put a porch on? Is that,
You'd still see it.
Yeah, the photo on page
And there
9.
was conversation about if there had been a porch, would that affect it? But the fact that there's not a porch part of this application, we can't take that into consideration, other than this is what we see.
The only information we have to speak to the visibility of a transom or not is really that top picture, which from this vantage point would show it. Obviously, understanding what that porch construction looks like and how that would look in elevation, that may change the dynamic of the conversation. But like that said, we can't prove based on a potential porch that we have no design for at this point.
So is the vented, non-vented conversation what changed the recommendation of the commission as far as what's listed, recommended single with or without a transom? What changed as far as with or without?
I think in my opinion, what it comes down to, and I'll speak for myself, as opposed to the rest of the commissioners, but I think what it is typically when we saw before, I don't think we saw a single window in elevation. I don't think we saw a single window from a cut sheet. It was always the three window. Seeing the scale of what a single window looks like, the height versus width, speaks. That's why we wanted to see it in elevation, on an elevation view of the house from the business meeting to make a better determination. All we have to go off of is that window on its own, which looks out of proportion without having the elevation.
Do you have an example elevation drawing?
I mean, of this particular setup, no, but on the application, there's the hand drawings, which doesn't have to be that detailed. It's just really need a sketch to scale. You can ignore a lot of the extra stuff on there, but just to scale the shape of the house, scale the windows, scale the doors, scale the windows shown, would be.
You're not an architect.
I am not. That's where I have no idea where to get an elevation drawing. I'm a Windows salesperson.
Okay. We could hire a student from OSU that is in architecture school to do elevation cheap.
If, does it specifically need to be a drawing? We have a service where we can basically take a photo of the front of the house and then make those changes in
Yeah.
essentially Photoshop. Is that?
It doesn't need to be a drawing. We need something that actually
A representation.
representation of what's going on. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. We really need that.
Mhm.
I mean,
What
even
specifically?
if I thought what you were proposing was great,
Mhm.
the documentation in the application is not sufficient enough for the record,
Mhm.
is what my point would
Okay.
be. Okay?
Is it the example? That it shows kind of what it looks like in proportions and I guess what specifically you're looking for from the drawing?
I'd like whatever you're gonna propose for that opening,
Mhm.
or if you're gonna keep that opening size or reduce it, or whatever you're gonna do,
Mhm.
how that relates to the roof and the two windows and the doors and what's there now.
Okay.
And if you can take a photograph that's kind of dead center on front,
Mhm.
as best as you can, and then modify it with whatever that program is to nail it,
Mhm.
gives us a good idea.
Perfect.
That's what we need.
Is that something that would then, once submitted, go back to the commission, or is that something that would be staff approved?
I think this is, my opinion is, I think this has been such a conversation. It needs to come in front of the commission.
If we had the elevations and it came down to just some detail changes, that could have been something we said to staff, but right now it's like, we needed something to sink our teeth into and say, okay, staff, here's what you proceed with.
Is there a chance, this is more of a staff question, I guess. I don't believe I've been included on any of the emails around business meetings or around the submissions or changes. Is there a chance that my email can be included on those?
Absolutely. If
Okay.
you, yeah, the owner would, just email us your email address, that would get it on the record that we're allowed to include you on the conversation.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
So would you like us to
Continue the.
continue this application?
So it sounds like there's two options. We would continue the application and resubmit with the edited drawing.
Revisions?
Yes,
Right.
or it sounds like it would be approved if we were to do approved pending submission of a fixed transom above. Is that, or am I correct in that case?
Restate that.
So it would be continue the application, we resubmit with the single photo shows what that change would look like as one window instead of two. Or it sounds like you mentioned earlier, maybe I'm misunderstanding, that it would be approved pending we submit to staff a version of the drawing with a transom. Is that the case? Or is it continued either way?
So think procedure here. So we gotta make sure we're following proper procedure.
Mhm.
To get staff to approve with the transom, we would have to vote on the application as a transom
Mhm.
and approve with drawings going to staff, which would take the single pane window off
Out of the
page.
equation.
You have to come back with a new application to submit for a single pane window.
Mhm.
That would at least get you something to move forward with.
Mhm.
If you are adamant on the single pane window, that needs to be a continuation so we can see it with all the information at the hearing.
Perfect. What would you like to do?
I'm sorry. In the case of the transom, would the commission and if the applicant is okay with the transom, consider a subcommittee rather than staff approval for that? With the scale of that, I think staff would feel a little,
Sure.
more comfortable with the
I'm
commission.
okay with subcommittee if there'd be another commissioner.
Sure.
Anybody?
Okay. If it gets to that, I just wanted to.
What would you like to do? Thank you. Yes.
So what are we?
We continue the application and come back next month. Or if we never want to come here again, we submit with the transfer.
If I can also add, for the applicant, just that, if you move forward with the transom tonight, you are still eligible. You could submit at a later date for the single window. You would just have to follow the typical deadline and application, calendar for that.
Perfect.
So it's just May 9th for June. So it's up to you on that.
That would be my vote. I would say we recommend that they vote to approve the transom version. You and I discuss, and then we resubmit an application with the proper documentation, and then we get best of both worlds.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Can we have the staff vote to approve a drawing and submit it in the subcommittee version of this with the transom window? Sure.
The motion on the amended application.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move on GV 2402-014A, 791 Mohawk Street to approve as amended by the applicant that they will submit to Historic Preservation Office a front elevation rendering, drawing, representation of the double window replaced with a single window with a transom to be reviewed by a subcommittee of the commission.
And a piece of clarification, we would want the typical cut sheet with that as well, so we can see the dimensions and relationships on that.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I apologize, I know you're voting, cut sheet, the approval form that I submitted before, and then also a picture of the front of the home edited to have that transom. Perfect.
Yeah, whole picture.
Yes.
For a second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion?
For the record, who are the subcommittee?
I'll be on the subcommittee.
I can if somebody else.
You're like me, that's fair.
Good wrong.
So it's like, okay.
All right. Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. And just for your reference, for your knowledge, once you submit it, she'll electronically send it to us by email. We'll both take a look at it. We'll give our feedback and you should be moving on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving ahead to item number 3, GV-24-04-025, 275 Lear Street. Sure. Then once you're all settled, if you raise your right hand. Right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes,
Your name is?
Sue Quadrat.
Thank you. Cool.
This is a request for action that was continued for landscaping. The landscaping includes to remove the 20-inch, I forget this acronym, but it's basically a 20-inch caliber of tree for a London plane tree in the parking area, and to plant a Japanese lilac tree as a replacement tree in the exact same location as the removed London plane tree. The staff analysis, including summary of previous review, is the following is taken from the April 3rd, 2024 German Village Commission meeting minutes, noting the application was continued due to the applicant's absence at that meeting. The commissioner comments are the commission noted that they are not opposed to the tree being removed if a more appropriate shade tree or multiple smaller trees were proposed to be put back in its place. The commission understood that a tree of the same caliber would not be appropriate to be placed at this location. One commissioner noted that there is a landscaped area in the parking lot towards 6th Street that does not have a tree, so at least 2 trees could be able to be planted if this one is removed. It was confirmed that 1 shade tree per 10 parking spaces is the city code requirement for parking lots. One commissioner noted that the largest tree that should be put here, it would be a maximum of a 6-inch caliber. However, a large shade tree is being removed and the replacement proposed is a small ornamental tree. It was noted by one commissioner that the arborist report stated that the tree is dying due to drought from poor growing condition and asked whether this tree was an inappropriate species for this location. And the commission requested that staff reach out to the German Village Society or property owner to see whether they have a copy of the original site plan on file. And the commission noted that the tree needs to be bigger than the tree that was planted in the other parking lot island. At the May business meeting, the commission made the following statements and recommendations. The commission stated that the replacement tree will need to be discussed further at the hearing, and they are still in support of previous comments made at the April hearing and recommended applicant refer to those comments and questions. The recommendation is that staff recommends approval of any clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of certificate with the following condition, and that condition to be for a new canopy tree to be planted in the same or similar location instead of the small ornamental tree that is proposed. The basis for that recommendation is City Code 3011613, Standards for Site Improvements A.
Anything else to add?
No, I don't.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Well, there's a couple of things I would just like to clear up in terms of the notes from the last meeting, just to make it clear. There's an existing tree there that's 20-inch caliber at its diameter at breast height is what that acronym is. And basically that's a mature tree that you couldn't possibly replace anything at that size. So in the notes, when we said that shade tree is an appropriate tree for that space. And it's also a London play tree, which is an appropriate urban tree that works. And I mean, the idea of putting a large tree in a parking lot is it helps eliminate the heat island effect. You know, it provides that kind of cooling. It's providing, you know, through its respiration and all of the good things environmentally that are happening. Plus it's taking up some of the stormwater use as well. The islands in this parking lot are big enough to support that type of tree. So the issue that was raised at the last meeting was the fact that what was proposed to replace it was an ivory silk tree, which is really not a shade tree. It's more in the ornamental tree size, and its canopy would never get large enough to provide the kind of shade and impact that a London plane tree.
Correct.
So it was really about what the proposed replacement tree would be and the fact that it needs to be a shade tree as opposed to an ornamental tree.
So the existing second island that's closest to 6th Street already
Yes.
has the Japanese lilac in it.
Yeah, which is an inappropriate tree for that space.
Yeah, I understand that, but the association themselves decided that's what they wanted to replace this with, and that's what they had replaced the other one with. So they're trying to keep it to look the same, balance it out.
I understand that parking lot's surrounded by plane trees. You have plane trees on.
We do have trees on the sides, yes,
on
and
the
on the
sides,
around the
and there's a
back.
plane tree just adjacent to it, so it's really
That's on the
lilac
outside of the
that-
fence, though. That's not within the parking lot.
okay, it's an edge tree to the parking lot, and the others are.
And all those other ones are on another property that is not Waldheim's property there.
But on 6th Street, there's two.
There's two on 6th Street, yes.
So I mean, I think that's been established.
3 on 6th Street.
There's three, yeah.
So I think, so I dug a bit into the code, and 3312.21 on landscape and screening. For interior landscaping, specifically says one shade tree for every parking spaces. It states a 2-inch in caliber type of planting per code. The peninsulas and islands should be covered with live vegetation, gravel or mulch. So with all that, when I dug up, I think, I tend to dug up. I think an issue is A, do we consider Japanese lilac a shade tree? There's no record in the approvals in the past of that tree to the left over there, the Japanese lilac, having been approved. So when the original tree came down and that one got replaced, There's no approval for that. I'm not gonna personally go back and make you tear it out and put a new tree in there. But before us is the other tree specifically. So looking at that, I'm not sure that the Japanese lilac meets the shade tree criteria per city code. The bricking over that peninsula, I think, is doing more damage, potentially, because it's reducing the amount of permeable surface. If that was mulch or rock or planting, you'd have a lot more ability to soak up water in that peninsula, which would help the condition of the tree. Not necessarily saying that that plane tree species needs to go back, but I do think it needs to be a shade tree. However, playing devil's advocate to myself, looking at the requirement of having one for every 10 parking spaces. And right now you have 3 along 6 and 1 along the street behind us here in the picture. That's 4 large shade trees on the property. And looking at 1 for every 10. Is that already going above and beyond what the code requires?
Does that count for parking lot or for the whole site?
There's a section for landscaping and screening under section 33-1221. There's also a section for landscaping under 33-2107 that's talking about dwelling units. I don't know if those are compounding or if those are one taking over the other.
Generally, that is the interior of the parking lot. The perimeter landscape is a different.
Yeah, okay. So I don't think the outside trees count as satisfying the parking requirements.
The outside trees don't count. There's 30 parking spaces, which technically would mean 3 trees. So having one that's not a shade, to go back and say, take the one other shade that's already there, not gonna make you put in 3 trees. I think that, to me, that reinforces the need for a shade tree. Be it the plane or be it some other species. I just don't think Japanese lilac is appropriate for that location. That's just my process to get where I'm at. Any other commissioner comments?
So you want another London plane put in there?
Doesn't need, to me, it doesn't need a blended plane, but it needs to be a shade tree.
So it could be.
As defined by the city?
It could be a tulip tree, it could be a Shumard oak, it could be a shingle oak, it could be a,
Is that on the approved
Red.
list? Is that on your approved list? We can find it on there?
there is, we don't have one specifically for German.
The only approved list the city's got is for the lawn strip.
Yeah.
I'm not a tree person, so I need a little more definitions just so I know I'm getting the right one. So that's what I'm questioning.
I mean, the preference would be to put back the London plane.
Yeah.
That's the easiest
Yeah.
solution.
And why not?
Looking to see city arborists, what their street trees are. If it's on the arborist list, it's gonna be approvable in this location as
The
well.
street trees though are different criteria.
They are.
It's really, yeah.
Short ones.
Well, it could be
vertical
more to
root.
be under lines and they're
Yeah.
narrower, they're not broader spread.
Yeah, and roots go down.
Because of buses
Yeah.
and trucks and things like that, so.
So I think if the London plane's not what your organization wants to put back, I think go back to the arborist and say what shade tree with a canopy spread would be appropriate for that location.
So Karen, how is that defined? What a shade tree is? Is that?
There's not a real
Okay,
tight definition.
all right.
We could put some criteria on it to achieve,
With
30 to 50 feet in height and a spread of 30 feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
that helps.
Did we talk about the installed caliper size for this? I think there was a little bit in the notes, but
2 sounds really small
yeah.
when you're replacing a tree that large.
So is there a suggested size to put, caliper size?
I put a 4 or 5 inch tree in.
City code requires a 2-inch caliper, but the larger you can get, the more it'll take root faster.
Right, I understand that. I'm just trying to comply, just making sure I hear right.
Yeah.
And then do we submit that again to you once we do pick one, or how? Is that what, okay.
We can continue this so that you're on the next month's agenda. We can get that done.
Question for the commission. Would this be an option for a subcommittee if we get agreement that it's going to be a shade tree and that species can come back and the core would be on that subcommittee?
Be willing to do that.
So what we can do is we can, if you want to, amend the application to include a shade tree in lieu of this Japanese lilac. We can approve it with the condition that it goes to a subcommittee of the commission members, in which case you submit that information, submit the tree species you'd like to use to staff. Staff will then electronically work with the subcommittee to review what's there. So we can just say, yes, we're good, or not good, or give feedback to you, and get that approval done without having to come back to the next meeting.
Okay,
Basically, it's an acceptable shade tree.
Would you like to amend your application to the shade tree, and then we'll go through that process.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, on application number 3. GB 2404025, 275 Clear Street. I move to approve as amended by the applicant that the replacement tree, the tree comes down, but the replacement tree will be a shade tree. They will make an application to HBO and a subcommittee of commission will approve that as being a shade tree. Acceptable shade.
Second.
Is there any question on the motion? All
The members of
Yeah.
the,
Commissioner Coyle volunteered. I'll be on as well.
Thinking we've got to make it 3 so we don't have a tie.
That's a good point.
That dawned on me.
Would you like to be the third?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Well, Sheila will be third. Okay.
Next time.
I'll let you do it.
Next time.
All right. So we'll have 3 in subcommittee. Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Motion passes. You submit the species information to Nicole, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
sorry, just for the comments in the approval. Could you repeat the numbers for the size, the height and spread of the tree that you're looking for?
I think I said 35 or to 50 in height and probably reaching a 35-foot spread.
Thank you.
Diameter. A radius.
Spread. Spread is the,
Third one.
Canada.
yeah, spread is a term used.
Fair enough. Hey, your spread, I'm thinking, is that a radius spread? Or-
No.
Thank you.
Landscape world.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item number 4, GB-24-05-019, 914 City Park. Once you're all settled, if you'll raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Megan Dixon, architect at Greg Button Studio.
Thank you.
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration for a porch enclosure. The work description is to enclose an existing side porch located on the south elevation. The demo plan includes the removal of the porch awning, removal of the existing porch railings and decking, the removal of lattice on a rear sunroom, the removal of non-contributing shutters in the second floor dormer, the removal of existing brick steps, and the removal of the existing door. The enclosure materials are to include aluminum clad casement windows from the approved window list, the Marvin Ultimate in the color clay, a full light entry door to be aluminum clad with transom, a new wall framing to be finished with red cedar trim and recessed composite panels. The trim color is in the materials package, to maintain the existing transom and new limestone steps. The staff analysis is at the May business meeting. The commissioners made the following statements and recommendations. The commission requested staff to look into the file for additional information on porch details, such as the handrails, to see if there have been any past replacements. And the commission asked the applicant to clarify will only be the shutters on the gable dormer or if it will be shutters for the whole house that are removed. HPO staff did look into the file as requested by the commission and could not locate a COA for approval for any porch repair or replacements for the side porch. From the current submitted photos, it does appear that the porch flooring has been replaced, and we do recommend the applicant supply some more detailed photos in order to assess the condition of the existing railing to better identify the potential age of the existing railing. The staff recommends to continue the application to allow the applicant time to provide additional information about the railing section or to maintain the existing railing section on their proposed design. The basis for that recommendation is City Code 31611, standards for alteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, and 12. The German Village guidelines for entryways and porch enclosures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Anything else to add?
I would just add to staff's comment, we would be removing shutters throughout, so that includes on the masonry as well. And in terms of the railing, we will be storing the door in the existing masonry opening in the basement, and we could potentially do that with the railing. I know in the in German Village guidelines, typically when there's a column and you do a porch enclosure, you build around that. But with this being a partial height railing, it's a little more difficult to do that. So I would just like to hear your opinions on that.
Questions, comments from the commission?
So my whole issue was, I have no problem with anything but the railing. Is it historic? Was it there? Or was it salvaged that somebody in the 70s or 80s got and added? Don't know. It's pretty ornate, but that doesn't tell me one way or the other.
Right.
You know, our mission is to preserve architecture. The railing is significant in its detailing and its design. And you would have to really convince me that it was not there historically. But I would say if it was installed in the 70s or 80s, we're historic now.
Right. The dormer was added, I think in 68 is when Nicole mentioned that happened, which is probably when the shutters were also added, the garden wall was added. So it's hard to say if the railing was also altered or at that time.
Yeah, I know. And my opinion is to err on the safe side and the railing stays.
Okay.
I would put your enclosure wall behind it. To get what you need.
Yeah, the existing footprint is small.
Yeah.
So putting a wall behind it would make it unfeasible. I understand if it were, put on in 68, at this point, it is historical. We removed the shutters in the house directly behind it at 911 3rd Street, which were put on in 64. So, my inclination is if it's non-contributing, we're removing some of the clutter. I understand the railing is probably the most significant thing that we'd be removing as opposed to the awning and the shutters. That's why I say we would store it on site with the door, assuming this construction of the porch could be removed in the future and that be installed in its place.
Done that with the masonry work. I can't remember us ever doing that with mill work. My issue is it contributing or not, and like I said, I'd rather err on the side of doing the right thing and saying it is contributing rather than asking for forgiveness later and have it removed. If it's contributing,
If it's brought to the outside of the footprint, would that be plausible?
if there's some way you can figure out to do that, I don't know.
Okay.
But it might be worth considering. I know what you're saying. Yeah. For instance, you make the porch deeper,
Bring it out.
bring it out, so that the railing's still on the edge of the porch, but you got your depth inside behind the new wall.
A porch,
I don't know.
though, a porch, not a porch enclosure, because at that point.
No, the porch deck.
Decking.
Maybe that would be something the commission might buy into. That way you could maintain the width you need inside finish. Some kind of glazing partition wall with the railing out in front. I don't know.
To Ned's point there, it's an interesting concept. Right now, if you look at the floor plan on plates, the floor plan on page 7, there we go. Get that away with. The stairs you're proposing, I mean, the current stairs being brick stairs, I doubt that is necessarily the historic stairs, they're in pretty good condition. Most of them are pretty chopped up by now. But having,
Probably what original.
having that full width stair that you're proposing, again, just taking the whole thing and pulling that to the right to give you a little bit more kind of, I'll say, decking that comes out that this railing could sit on. So you're kind of pulling that railing forward.
Right.
You could do something with a post. So right now, a post is like a half post attached to the wall. Maybe that post gets more built out in front of the wall to give that post up to get the rest to anchor to.
Mhm.
I think we probably want to look at the detail of what that post is. We don't want it to be matchy to what's there. Probably more simple is my guess, but not, needs to be complementary to that existing railing. That might get you there. You can probably see that in plan and an elevation, what that looks like.
Right.
To really get past it. That allow you to keep that wall pulled up to the edge of the brick that you're showing.
It seems to me if you're going to try to keep that railing though and use it, you know, like on a deck in front, that the door may want to shift with the window. So, you know, right now you have a center door with
Right.
a window on either side. And it seems like it would make sense to shift the door to the right with the 2 panes to the left so it aligns.
We've looked at that. I think if we're talking about looking at a deck extension, that brick hardscape before you get to the garden wall, even if we're just talking about 24 inches, it's not going to be so much accessible from the front. We're going to want to access stairs up to the side. And then I don't want to have to modify the length of the railing. I assume that would be the preference of the commission. So yeah, we would maintain sort of a length of that railing. We might have to add to it and we would access from the side.
I think you're getting much more complicated than I ever thought. I wasn't thinking 24 inches sticking out enough to catch the railing.
Usually probably 8-inch.
Yeah.
6 or 8-inch.
Yeah.
So it's not. Okay.
If you go back
I
to
think that's straight for that.
potentially, and then maintenance wise.
You're gonna get so much leaf clutter back there. Yeah. I much rather prefer your idea of actually making it
An intentional
an
deck,
intentional
wood deck in lieu of limestone steps.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was my thinking.
Cause I was questioning yours, gonna ask to clarify your removal and reinstall.
I'm not sold on it.
To the side.
Yeah, no,
seems a little bit.
I'm not sold on it. I'm just trying to figure out some way of getting what the owner wants and still maintaining the historic character that's there.
As far as leaf clutter goes, I think having that thing not being on the deck, that might mitigate it. I'd be more worried about maintaining the backside of it. I would paint it,
Yeah.
paint it in the future.
It comes down.
Okay.
You did temporary one.
There are no railings on the other deck.
No,
Could it be moved to that other deck?
And then you throw it away.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm asking.
But you don't throw it away. No, I mean, to
It's-
relocate it is not historically where it was in our estimation in the beginning. It becomes, you're salvaging and moving someplace else, you're changing the architectural character of that, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that's not appropriate to the guidelines.
Then I would go back to, if you wanted to shift it up 6 inches. It's not the original spot. I know
Okay,
you didn't like.
I'm just trying to get there,
I know.
and if you want to go to that point, and I agree with you, you don't take the railing down, you don't do the porch enclosure.
I think step one is trying to, easiest solution here, try to find evidence that that's not original.
Yeah,
okay. I don't know if we'll find that, but beyond,
Did you go to
What's
the
that?
societies?
yeah,
Archives?
they had one photo from
That- the
maybe the
one that's
eighties or
there.
nineties, and I can't, there's a Cadillac, the porch, and I can't see it.
Did you actually go to the society files or did you just go online to what they had?
I reach out to society every time I have a project in
Okay.
Fairfield Village. I've never actually been in there, but,
I went online and saw the picture you had.
yeah,
But there's also note that there's other documentation that they have on file for the property.
okay.
But it's not electronically available.
Mhm.
You might find something in there that shows a simple round railing,
Mhm.
which probably would have been more appropriate. That's why I don't know if this is salvageable.
Okay. And the idea of storing it on site, not really an option.
I mean, if you can show that, if you can prove to me or them or whatever necessary to say it's not historic.
Right.
Because I kind of get a feeling it's not, but not going there. If you can prove that, then you can throw it away.
Okay,
As far as I'm concerned.
well,
It's not historic.
well, if it were 1968, say, when all that was put on the house.
I would say, was it appropriate at that time to even do that? I mean, a lot of people did what they thought was right back in 68, 70. They found a nice piece of railing. It's sharp. It's an improvement over what was there. They did it. God bless them, because they're the ones that got all this started.
That was before the guidelines.
Yeah, the guidelines were much looser.
Like, if I could make some recommendations on kind of where to start. Number one, if you kind of zoom in on the left picture on page 6, it looks like the skirt board of that deck is screwed in. You can probably easily unscrew that, pop it out and see what's underneath there. If you find a whole bunch of structure that's been new wood, that's usually an indication that porch is changed. The base of that railing looks pretty unbeat up. If you could kind of get the bottom of the base railing off, you might be able to see the wood underneath has not been painted. You might find some mounting under there that would indicate that it's not original.
Okay.
And then over by the house, not sure, kind of blocked by a table, but you might see some evidence around where it's attached to the house. If, those two railings, the faux railing for the house post out center match, usually they're mismatching, that'd be an identification, but they're actually matching, so. It's,
Okay, so it sounds like we'll continue the application based on what I can find with the railing and modify the design from there.
Another thing,
Mhm.
if you could find a old catalog that showed an example of this railing being interior railing. To be honest with you, I really don't think it's what's originally built as an exterior railing.
Yeah, it's very ornate.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking ornate. But I can't tell you that they didn't build an ornate railing in that house. That's what I'm looking for, something to say, yes, okay.
the house is not that ornate to start with.
Yeah.
I know.
No, that's new. That's, yeah, not.
And, yeah,
So you got 2 porches that are maybe inappropriate.
Right, any other questions that you have?
no, we'll continue the application.
It's a very long Cadillac, isn't it?
Is there a motion to continue?
A minute here. Mr. Chairman, GB 2405-019-914 City Park Avenue, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in
No.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Aye, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very non-committal times for everybody.
All right.
It's hard.
You get one job.
Hey.
Item number 5. Item number 5, GB-24-05-020, 525 South 4th Street. Applicant here for 525 South 4th Street. All right, hearing none, mark that back to. Indeed, that's right. Item number 6, GB-24-05-021, 147 East Deshler. Once you're settled, you'll raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
And your name?
Sue Grant.
Thank you very much. Cool.
This is a request for action for landscaping and hardscaping in the front yard. The work description includes a compacted gold mine courtyard to be maintained with additional compacted gold mines and edged with a flush split face limestone. To repair a bluestone walkway to a secondary door, replace a large gold mine circular courtyard with boxwoods with 2 smaller patio areas and new plantings. Relocate the existing fountain. These perimeter walls, fence, and hedges outside of the exterior walls are to remain, and all materials for improvements are to be bluestone, brick, and gold pine to match the existing materials. Staff analysis. The current landscaping and hardscaping was originally approved in 2010, that's COA number 10-7-23. In 2019, the homeowner at that time received approval to remove the grass from the central hedge design and replace it with the existing gold dust top gravel, which was COA number 19-6-9. At the May business meeting, the commission did not have any additional questions or comments for the applicant. The staff recommendation, that staff recommends approval of any all clarifications to HVO staff for approval prior to the issuance of a certificate. The basis for that recommendation is City Code 311613, Standards for Site Improvements A. And that is it.
Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. Except I think that they want to make the space more usable. Right now, it is mostly just boxwood and paths, so they can't sit anywhere. So they want to make it nice, intimate, usable spaces with really nice materials.
Sure. Questions, comments from the commission?
You're not changing any of the outside perimeter stuff, it's all in.
No, not at all. Actually, everything's in really good shape, and they're going to protect the trees that are existing. That little front car, pretty much when you look through the gate, that all that brick under your feet is staying, and that little gold finds area there is staying to the right when you walk in, except we're gonna, instead of the metal edging that always works its way out, we're gonna put like a flush limestone band. It won't be too deep to hurt the, it should be like 8 inches deep, but if the roots are there, they'll just make it less. Yeah. And then that bluestone that you see as you walk in there to the left, that will stay, and the wall there on the left will stay. But we'll be saw cutting part of the bluestone and then patching in the other things. And that back patio, that's, the brick and that's just going to stay the same. We're not going to change that.
I do appreciate the impervious lot cover calculations showing you're going from 2.7 to 1.3 is a reduction in impervious surface.
Well, when you're measuring it, I don't know if it measures the pencil line, so it may not be exactly that.
Showing that we're maintaining or getting more pervious.
Close, yeah.
Did you do the original plan?
No, I did not. I think that was Landfair, maybe?
I can't remember.
Like,
I
they're the
remember
ones.
it coming in front of the commission.
Yeah, they installed it because I did the house next door at the same time. And I think they installed it, but I don't know if they designed it.
The issues back then was, not so much what you're modifying now, but, the gateway with the arch over with the fixture and if I remember right, the continuation of the 6-foot high wrought iron fence to the east.
All I know is,
Partial at that point, and they continued it on to the corner. And that was a big discussion about whether that was appropriate or not. Then there was some stoop work on the inside that was done that was, I think that one, right there. There was a lot of discussion about that. Yeah.
Page 8, top picture.
yeah, a 6-foot fence and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know if we could get away with that now, but it looks pretty
There's
good.
there's a lot of conversation.
Yeah, I bet.
The steps up the front and everything, all the stuff, yeah, that was a lot of the conversation. I
It's
think-
pretty nice from the outside, even though it
Yeah,
seems to go further than what you might be able to do now.
well, there's a lot of discussion about the fact that this was a primo Italianate,
Mm-hmm,
high-end Italianate house anywhere in the village
mm-hmm.
and on the park. And that it probably was appropriate for what they were asking for.
I think it's a real contribution, the way it looks and is maintained. I think it's beautiful, yeah.
So that was a lot of the consideration, the fact of the level of architectural detail and finishing of the house.
Yeah.
Well, I got one question.
Yeah,
So the brick paving portion, what's the base intended for that brick?
it's gonna match the front entry, which is on concrete with mortar. So it's gonna all match exactly the front entry. I mean, even if you put brick on base rock, it's not pervious, so.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission?
No.
Or any comments on the planting drains words about there?
Nope. If none, Mr. Chairman, I move on GB 2405-021, 147 East Deschler Avenue to approve as submitted.
Second?
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Thank you.
On to item number 7, GB 24 05 022 101 103 Thurman Avenue. Once you're both settled, you'll raise your right hands. Lunge. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and the truth.
Got it.
Okay, and your name, sir?
Chad Baker.
Thank you.
Joshua Young.
Thank you. Oh,
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration. The proposed work description is to maintain unapproved soffit fence. The applicant was recently approved for a rubber roof, asphalt shingle roof replacement, and box gutter repair. That was COA GB 23-12-014 back in December. The staff analysis of the application is in response to a code violation due to the soffit fence not following the COA. At the May business meeting, the commissioners made the following statements and recommendations, and that's just to say the application will need to be discussed further at the hearing. Per the active COA and current Durham Village guidelines and city code, HPO staff would not be in support of the currently installed soffit fence for additional ventilation. We would recommend the applicant look into installing ridge venting and eave venting in order to perform proper ventilation with the attic space of the home. The recommendation is that staff recommends the commission continue the application to allow the applicant time to look into an alternate venting methods that are in line with city code and the Durham Village guidelines. The basis for that recommendation is city code 311611, standards for alteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
anything else to add?
We added the soffit vents underneath the box gutters that were completely rebuilt from scratch in order to protect the integrity of the new material in the attic space in that house. The house has been renovated, interior insulation's been added to the house. HVAC system has been updated recently within the last handful of years. The ventilation is necessary in order for that house to breathe. So that is why we have added the ventilation.
Questions, comments from the commission?
What would be other alternates way of doing it?
In this situation, this is the only option that I found that was kind of suitable for this situation. We did not do the upper shingle roof. It was already done by another contractor with a different homeowner. So the ventilation right now is only, or before this was taking place, was only a ridge vent. And that was not done to code either by the previous contractor. So with only a ridge vent on the attic space, the house can't breathe the way it needs to. When these houses were built 100 years ago with a wood shake or a slate roof or a metal roof, those roof systems breathed on their own. So now we have to add other ways for intake air to come through to ventilate the attic, prevent mold, moisture buildup in the attic spaces.
Have you come across the product, a fascia vent? This is a strip vent that you can put up against the brick where your soffit hits it to allow basically intake of air up through a small 1 inch or less kind of gap that runs there. It's got the bug screen and everything on it.
You would have to have a lot of reconstruction in order for that to be something that could be done in this application.
So that's one application I've seen that has gotten the ventilation required without having the standout vents. The other is instead of having like slat vents, which look like a floor register, essentially they stand out, having more of these small perforated vents, holes that tends to hide more, less visibly noticeable. The other thing I've seen is if you obviously you have a plywood soffit, a flat soffit, as opposed to more of a beadboard type soffit that the metal type of beadboard, but what I'm looking for.
Are you referring to like a vented
Yeah, like
soffit
a
board?
hidden vent where your vents are up inside that little groove
Right.
between the strips to hide the venting. Just trying to find ways to hide venting because, like you said, historically these properties wouldn't have venting. So seeing the vents is kind of the antithesis of trying to meet the historic visuals of the house. Okay, so I understand that another venting system would require rebuilding those soffits or pulling that down and redoing the paneling. Financial hardships is not something we consider on first hearing of the applications. That would be on appeal, which is a whole separate issue. We're looking for the historically appropriate treatment for the
Paula Turner at the city, if I may interject. She specifically was very familiar with this property and the dilapidation of the property, and the box gutters were falling down, and Chad's team didn't even feel comfortable getting on the roof of it because they're in such disrepair. Had rats in that house. I've gotten the rats out, and they went in this little groove that's underneath the back part. And it appears to me that something that you'd be describing as an alternative is where it'd be an entry point where rats would get in, and that wouldn't be a good living situation to it. So I get the historical significance of it. This building was falling down. I redid the basement. I parged the walls. I put in 4 posts in the basement, put 4 posts in the back. That separation that you showed the picture of is because literally the house is falling down before I bought it. So the hardship wouldn't be what I would be looking at. Is I put over $100,000 into this property where I bought it from a licensed realtor that didn't disclose hardly anything to me. It was inspected, but there's things that you wouldn't be able to catch if someone's hiding something. So I had the roof completely rubberized, completely done. And also because of the separation of it is that Chad had the team pull off the shingles around at the bottom before the box gutters were done so that the flat roof could be rolled up into it because there was the settling that was occurring into it. So there's multiple things that are being done, and then there currently isn't, after the previous person I bought it from, they sealed off parts of the ceiling on the second floor, and that house would be falling down if I didn't buy it and didn't fix it. And it's added literally, it's added value to the houses around it. And like I said, Paula Turner is very specific, clear that this house was not taken care of at all before it was purchased, fixed, etc. That's painted black. match the roof, so it's hardly visible. And it's something better. It's going to allow the property to be maintained, and the basic essence of the property in of itself is to have a nice 1890-year-old house that had a 1940-year-old addition where they put on 4-foot footer or 4-foot foundation instead of 8-foot foundation. And then I had to do thousands of dollars of work so the back half wouldn't fall off. And so fixing the gutters was more than just fixing the gutter. I was trying to preserve it also.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a son that lives in the property. So I want that property to be good ventilation. I want it to be historically sound. And that property is going to last for probably another 140 years. But not if I didn't do anything to it. So I would ask if the proper venting of it could stay. And I'll say that, you know, I took the recommendation of Chad because their family's been running a roofing business for what, Chad, 95 years?
95 years, yeah.
95 years. They know how to do roofs properly. It was so difficult to find a company that would do box gutters in the first place. I had to call like 10 different companies to do it and to get it done the right way. And I was astounded by the fact that they made it look like a brand new house, but with the essence of an 1880-year-old house. So I'd implore to be able to keep it as is and make minor adjustments to just make it, bring it up to date just a smidge, so it lasts another 140 years. As opposed to doing something where a rat's going to be able to get into it.
And I want to clarify, when I say fascia strip vent, it's rat proof. It's a 3/4 inch block that fits into a 3/4 inch strip. And it's got insect barriers and everything else built into it. It's not just an open gap. It's a product that's made for minimal visibility venting. Throwing an option out there, trying to find something that would be historically appropriate that we could all come to agreement on.
And it's behind the fascia board, not against the house.
Yeah, put behind the fascia board, you put, there's also applications up against the house. There's different places you can place it. The idea is that it's a near visually invisible application to get the venting required.
Well, it's supposed to be a 1-story house, right? These are 1-story farmhouses where the second half of the building didn't have a toilet on it or a shower. So the addition is actually the toilet and the shower on it. And these houses weren't designed to be 2-story. They're 1-story buildings that were, you know, redone, and was probably redone in 1940 when you put the addition onto it. So it's not I would say that it needs extra venting on it for the fact that the way that the house is designed and redone.
This primary structure here is not a 1-story house at any point in time. It's always a 2-story house.
This was always a 2-story house. So the other 100 or so other around were primarily.
There's a combination of 1.5 cottages, 2-story. Yeah, there's a mix of housing styles in this.
So there was another set of stairs that was in the interior exterior when the house was originally built in 1890. Because that addition was done in 1940, from what I understand.
Yeah, so there would have been no exterior stairs. It would have been all interior stairs in this property.
Would have been through the kitchen.
I can't tell you what the interior of the house looks
Imagine
like.
what that ever was made into apartments.
Yeah, they'd probably pull the stairs out with the apartments and put stairs on the outside so they can get that separation.
So
So-
is it going to get the same quality of venting that these would, the same?
Yeah, so contractor by discipline, the venting that you have, the rectangular vent, that's a certain area of intake. And there's space in between each of these. So if you take the square footage of those intake vents compared to a 3/4 inch strip, the entire length of the building, or maybe some small gaps in between, you can get the same kind of intake updraft basically into the attic space.
And where exactly would it go?
Yeah, so basically, the strip vents, depending on your interior structure, they can be placed behind the fascia board, so right along the edge. There's also applications where you can put it right up against what would be a freeze board, between the soffit and the actual brick itself. To make it sit right inside of there. So basically it's up against one of the surfaces to hide the visual statement. So in theory, the soffit, depending on how fast it could be salvaged in rain. It's just right now you have the big vent openings that have to get hats infilled. So that includes some of the salvage of the soffit.
Well, the big problem is you've got holes into historic fabric.
That was gonna fall down before they're completely removed.
That soffit, I don't think this is the historic soffit.
It's all completely new lumber. We tore them down, reframed them, everything.
You did.
Correct.
So you removed the historic fabric to do that.
Everything was redone. Correct.
It was gonna fall off. They were afraid to step on it.
Was that part of the application for the roof?
Scroll down to the.
Removal or repair.
It was for, the repair of the box cutters and all, to remove the spec that's produced by the office allows for the removal of wood and replacement of wood like for like. And we did clarify with the representative for the applicant that we emailed that it would be a like for like replacement with all materials for the tax code.
But it didn't include cutting holes in for square vents.
No, it's supposed to be a like for like replacement
Yeah.
based on our conversation with the applicant via email, as well as the COA spec is a like for like replacement of all materials.
One,
Yeah,
one of
here's
the-
the shot. That's.
It wasn't vented at
one
all.
of the pieces, you can go to the Google Street View of the property.
So the property wasn't vented, so the material wasn't vented before.
Right.
And
So if you zoom in on the left side of the house, you can see the patching, and it was in terrible state. I
Yeah.
agree with you there.
But you did appreciate it.
Like for like would be, there's missing detail beads along that soffit that can't go in because of the venting that's there. So you can see that there's that little bead strip that runs along there,
zoom in a little bit
and one on
more.
the edge to give that particular detail.
So.
Like for like, we putting those two
Yeah,
beads back.
so can you show me, like, can you zoom in just a little bit more, because there's multiple patching,
Yeah,
right?
you can see all the patching in there.
And it's,
I've got no problem with the soffit being replaced personally.
Yeah.
But like for like, would put it back. That bead strip, powdered edge, that was some true that's gonna be there. But because you have the square, the rectangular vents in there, it kind of precludes that bead from going back
And there's an intercom that looks like too.
up against.
Up against the
little trees or whatever next to the house. So that's the detailing of like for like, details would go back. Having the strip vent of some sort would allow all that linear run of detail to go back in place, as opposed to the rectangular vents, which preclude that from happening.
On, maybe I'm missing something, but on page 4 of the certificate of appropriateness. Even though it's under the replacement of the asphalt roof, it says any all necessary venting to be performed on the roof ridge underneath the metal ridge roll, be a cobra vent, vent shore, or comparable in lieu of hat vents and or soffit vents.
Yeah, the ridge vent is always the top
Top.
piece. We've seen cobra vents that sit about 18 inches up from the gutter line. And there's a linear strip that runs through the shingles. Obviously, in this case, somebody else did the roofing before soffit work. So that would be going back, pulling off a couple runs of asphalt, putting that, cut a strip through the underlayment, and this venting goes in there. That puts the venting all up above onto the roof. That gives you the intake below and the venting.
so cutting the roof.
With
Is that
this-
historically, sorry, I don't wanna.
With this application though, with the box gutters, I mean, we have EPDM rubber up on that roof to prevent snow backup, ice, that kind of thing from melting and causing issues down the road. So if you cut open a strip 1.5 or 2 inches wide all the way around the perimeter, you're going to allow for an entry point for leaking.
Yeah. So typically the rooftop strip vents, which Cobra makes some of them, would go up a certain distance above that gutter line.
Correct.
And whatever the recommended is, I'm not sure what that membrane is, how far up it went up 18 inches, 24, 36. Typically that vent would go somewhere above it.
Right.
In application. The other strip vents that I'm talking about would be down on the soffit level. So there's two different ways to get those strip vents.
I mean, but I would see that the Cobra vent, it's made by GAF, it's plastic. So I would feel that that would be something that the commission would not approve because plastic did not exist.
So the square ones?
No, they're 4 feet long, about 12 inches wide, and you shingle over top of them.
Just gonna raise it up a little bit.
It'll give you a visible line on your shingle roof. And with this roof is only a 312 pitch. So there's not a whole lot of roof line up there to allow adding a vent on the shingle roof. By the time you do that, you're almost at the ridge itself to begin with.
Yeah,
Kind of
that,
defeating the inflow vent theory.
yeah, that above gutter line strip vent may not be applicable in this scenario. We understand that.
So I think beyond just the square vents here, the soffit wasn't rebuilt for
Like for like.
like for like.
Well, there's the wood right there. So you're just saying that the line on the there. So can you show the picture again, like where exactly yeah. So
there's a piece of molding going down the center. But we have crown molding at the outside edge and we have crown molding at the brick, the perimeter of the house. So the only thing missing now is that center strip.
how would you feel if it was just to the right of the vent and just to the left of the vent around the edge?
I think that would architecturally look odd.
Yeah. It's not like for like.
Well, it'd be more odd if they were on the ground and so.
I can't speak to if the property is in bad condition, that was what it was, and fixing it in a historic district comes with the necessity to meet the historic integrity.
It was painted black when I bought it, so they were trying to hide some of the damages of it, and
It may not always stay black.
what's that?
May not always stay black.
So what would be the solutions from a engineering standpoint, architecture standpoint of removing those vents and taking those out? And
My opinion is, granted, you gotta get the ventilation, I totally understand what you're talking about. But I think you need to go with what Anthony's talking about is, number one, the soffit material needs to be reinstalled for what was there before.
Was there any there before?
Two boards with basically what it's a batten trim. Doesn't have to be that way functionally, but it has to look like that. But I would say that probably then you're gonna be wanting to put a strip vent behind the fascia board.
But if you can, real quick, if you pull up, if you go to www, this is just one manufacturer, I'm not saying it's them for sure, but www.cor-vent.com/N for vent, sorry. You're good. After the slash, it's S-400.cfm. Yep. So that's one of the products. If you scroll down, you'll see a little picture. That's what it ends up looking like when it's all said and done. Where that sits in that soffit can move back and forth.
But again, that's a plastic material though.
The fact that it's hidden is fine. We're not gonna say you can't have plastic for that vent. Because any venting is gonna be a non-historic application. So this visually hides, plastic is okay for that hide.
It doesn't.
I mean, it
look like the house. Like I'm looking at that and said, like, I'm not trying to be snarky or snide. I'm looking at that and saying, okay, you've got this gap that goes all the way around. That doesn't look like the house.
If you scroll down, so the detail is more like this, where your soffit is actually wider, and that strip would be either outboard by your exterior fascia or inboard by your interior cornice.
And that per square footage of linear footage for, how wide is that?
That product is.
Two.
Inch and a half.
Okay, so it's an inch and a half and
It's an inch and a half. Times the entire run of your house in all
yeah,
directions.
I know, 30 feet by 20 feet, so it's, 600 square, so it's 600 linear feet. And there's how many soffits on that? There's, what, 4 soffits per side and 3 soffits at the front and 4 soffits on the other end, so it's arguably, I'd say if you measured it up, it's gonna be about the same amount of venting of one versus the other. It's not gonna be, so you got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you got how many on the front? 2 or 3, and then you got 4, 3, and then you got 4 on the other side. So from a,
You should come
from
out
a
even at
mathematics standpoint, it's,
A lot more.
yeah, but it's I'd say larger rectangular would more likely not allow for a larger updraft into the building versus those that, versus an inch and a half. Yeah,
It's all about surface area. It doesn't matter if it's open and clumped to one or if it's stretched out.
so in order to do that, you'd have to pull the gutters off and start over.
I don't think so. I think you don't do from underneath.
I wouldn't think so.
I think your soffit board probably.
We'd have to redo,
Yep.
yeah, we'd have to redo some of it, but
Would it? Is there anything about putting those vents on versus having wood that applies straight to the brick? Do anything with regards to the integrity of the roof in of itself? Is there anything that's better about having wood to brick versus wood plastic brick?
I mean, structurally, as long as the box gutters are secured, which they are, we should be fine.
Of putting the plastic under?
Yeah, I guess so.
At the end of the tail of the rafter.
Yeah, well, they're scabbed on, they have to be scabbed on in the first place, right? It's not,
Yeah.
the rafters had to be scabbed on to be able to have box gutters on, so.
Right.
In theory, you'd think you'd have, not knowing the structure, you'd think there'd be some kind of wood that's running from brick out to your outboard by your gutter. And your soffit board is fastened up to the bottom of that. If the strip vents run between those, if it's essentially, the wrapper tail, so be it. If it's a continuous strip, so be it. I think it's just a matter of where you want to place that.
So there'd be potentially gaps, you have to cut the plastic, put it in, and then you have gaps that you have to fill in.
If you try to stick it up at the
If it's
soffit
scabbed
level.
on, yeah, so if it's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If the rafters are scabbed on, and you got the gutters that are adhered to it, so you're gonna have to take the piece of plastic, adhere it, cut it, so you're gonna have these gaps all the way down from rafter to rafter. So it's not gonna run a full length of it, because you're gonna have like a piece from piece to piece to piece, which effectively would be the same thing as venting it, if it's not running the full linear.
Essence to the back of the station.
I do have pictures printed here of like during construction, if you wanted to look at this.
Sure.
Take a look. Not having a detailed section to look at, it's kind of hard to say. I love it. I'm not trying to not trying to design a table here, it's just giving you options.
Starts, there's like 7 or 8 pages there, you guys can go through.
That's like board, it's just plywood, screwed to the bottom.
That's a downside to it. Doesn't feel.
Right.
It's not the way that.
Tails getting off.
90-year-old people intend it to even.
I would say your best bet is to put that strip vent behind your decorative frieze against the brick. That stands off the brick a little bit by an inch.
If we're gonna go this route of having to change what's there, opposed to using the plastic vent that you had pulled up What about an aluminum soffit strip? That are 10-foot lengths? It would be a metal instead of plastic.
Guess number one, it wouldn't have the same look as what was historically there. Significantly not the same look.
Just trying to see if it.
I would ask for product data on it. How wide is it compared to something like this?
It's about the same width. It's a 10-foot long strip. The part that you would see from the ground is about 1.5 inches wide. And it's a perforated louver looking system, similar to what the soffit vents that we have up there now, but just smaller and 10 feet long. It's the same concept as this plastic strip here, but it's a metal instead of plastic, which in my opinion would fit more historically than plastic would.
I think as long as it's flush with the bottom of the soffit, you can find the kind that kind of do the hat out of the thickness of the plywood.
Yep.
That could potentially be an option. We have to see the product. I wouldn't want to just that table here say it's good.
Right.
Wasn't that in the previous COA to not allow it? What?
The spec in the COA is just within the restrictions of the staff approval, so the commission is allowed to, of course, deviate from that language for any approval that you all consider. That's just what staff can approve.
Yeah. To me, it's a from a soffit vent perspective. I mean, obviously, as we renovate houses and we try to make them more sealed, we lose the natural air leakage and venting that happens.
Yeah.
Is there a product or a method that we as a commission would be okay with, understanding if we're going to deviate from the perfect historical condition? Is there something that we would be okay with versus?
Why couldn't it be just a simple solution of taking the soffit down that you've got right now, putting screening up behind the fascia board and just holding the new soffit material an inch and a half off the back of the fascia? I think that's all it needs. You wouldn't have to go through all the manufactured stuff.
Provide a gap and then screen.
And sort of screens.
A black screen or.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, nobody, even if it's galvanized, nobody's gonna see it.
Can you describe that one more time again?
Hmm?
Could you describe that one more time again?
So you got your bottom of your horizontal that's forming your soffit. Okay, you've taken the soffit material off, put screening here, make sure it's tight to the back of the fascia, and then put your new soffit material up and just hold it off the back of the fascia an inch and a half.
With just a screen?
Yeah, just a screen.
How would we support the screen from?
Stretch it from the bottom of each, staple it or nail it or screw it to the bottom of each of your horizontals.
It's not gonna look nice. I kind of feel that's gonna make the house not look nice. It's like.
I'm just talking with you right now. What's right there now is not nice, not good, not historic.
Gotcha.
Okay, bottom line.
So
That's why you're here.
yeah. So can I ask you a question? But because I want the house to look as beautiful and nice as possible.
And you want the venting to be as visually non-intrusive as possible.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. So if the vents are taken off, what would be the easiest way to fix the holes? Would you take have to take all that off because it's all.
Without patching them, we would have to replace the entire soffit.
And so that would be taking that all down and around and then putting plastic or metal, whatever the material is, putting it all the way around and then having to re-adhere up to it, as opposed to patching it, which it would kind of look like the house before, but it'd be black instead.
Use some expectation that you're gonna put that metal, not metal,
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to,
middle trim piece in too.
are there, I'm just wondering off the top of your head, just so that I can look in and see that when we come back and say, hey, this is what we're gonna propose. Are there any houses that you can, that you could think of where it has venting of any sort of replaced, or is there kind of go back and research approved box gutters that have been redone for German Village and the commission, and look at them and say, okay, this is what has been done in the past, so that be able to have a discussion. And Edward, I don't mean to be intrusive or to be, to be argumentative. I'm just trying to have the house look better.
It's a good question, because we've had box gutters rebuilt. We've had the other kind of gutters rebuilt, et cetera. We've vented with a ridge roll, but we've never had an issue, to my knowledge, of somebody installing venting like this, which is why you're here. And because of that, off the top of my head, I can't tell you what, that I'm trying to go there, what other people have done. Obviously, correct installation would require some kind of venting out there at the end of the soffit.
Right. I mean, that's city code has, as a roofing contractor, we're obligated to follow
Absolutely. So
proper
they've done it.
ventilation. Manufacturers require proper ventilation. And I understand this type of ventilation, no ventilation was a thing in 1880s,
Oh, yeah.
whether it be exhaust
Actually,
or.
houses were vented all over the place.
Exactly. So, I mean, not just with Mr. Young's house, but every house in German Village, I mean, with as much money as
Yeah.
we're putting into these properties to restore them and bring them up to 21st century, that's the thing across the board. not
No, I
just-
totally
not just-
agree. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what other ones have done,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
know,
been subtle, obviously.
won't say that there are no events of this kind out there. Will not make that claim. I will make the
Yeah,
claim that if they're there and they were not approved, and they were done without approval, which is nobody's ever called them on it, or they've been there before the commission's been around. Like I said, I've seen, instead of being plywood, we've seen the more strip board style.
Beadboard.
Yeah, beadboard style. It's a mixed bag. I'm trying to find the right way to do this. Try to give the applicants neighborhood, this is a good standard way of doing it. If we can catch it off at the pass, it's our best shot. Recently, most of the applications that had gone back and done the bottom venting, everyone that we approved so far that I remember has all been up on the roof level in that roof strip.
Really?
There's been several that we've approved in the past couple of years.
Because even in your guidelines there, that's not an approved avenue to take either.
In terms of,
the only is part of your approved options for ventilation is just the Cobra ridge roll underneath the metal ridge cap.
There have been cases where HBO staff have approved an eave vent in very specific cases where that's more so in the removal of hat vents from the roof, that eave venting is allowable if there's not an appropriate space for ridge venting. But that's the only thing I can think of from the last.
and that's really the exhaust vent as opposed to the
Yeah.
intake vent.
Yes.
Which she doesn't have.
Which you need to have both.
So let me clarify. These soffit vents, this is the intake vent, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And your bridge vent for the exhaust.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, the heat carries it up through.
Kind of like the sunroof on your car, that if you
Yeah.
crack it open, it doesn't do anything until you lower a window down.
I would say that the bulk of the roofs in German Village don't have intake venting at all.
Right.
That's my guess, that's what I'm afraid of.
You can't do anything with the roof wall because the rubber, because of the settlement of the house. You'd have to literally do the whole house because you can't.
Yeah.
If you only have it vented, but you don't have the back.
There you go.
Then it's not, you're not venting it. So. And the point also with the rubber coming up, you can't do anything on the back of the house because of the settling that's occurred. You'd have to literally move the house 2 inches up to be able to have there not be, because the house is built up against the box cutter. And so that's why they had to roll it up, because they're the settling away from the house.
Yeah. That's the kind of what was on the house, this house previously. I'm just
Yeah,
driving through the village, looking up and see what I can see. 650 South Grant had that same detail that was on your house originally, that middle bead.
and the low slope roof.
Yeah, but don't see any venting there. Back up.
Can't tell.
Right there. Yeah.
All right, that's a big of a shadow. That's a good view.
Do you think it's possible that Charissa would run into this situation and if?
I wish she was here,
continue,
yeah.
We could,
I wish she was here.
yeah, I could too.
She's the one that knows more about this than all of us.
Yeah.
I think.
Back those.
It seems like this should be a continuation with time to be able to come up with a solution.
You have any applications for 306 Sycamore? And they've done some work recently.
It does not sound familiar, but with 303 CVs last year, I could play every.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything.
Recent. You said 360.
306 Sycamore.
Right. Good, let's see if I can-
She's away.
Except metal underneath them.
I can't tell.
It looks like the 2021, it was a standard asphalt shingle roof replacement following the same specification for venting.
Was there any application materials showing what they proposed?
Nothing there, and then we can open the photos and see.
That's
The
all
application
before.
also included sightings.
Yeah, that's all before stuff, right?
Yes.
It should have any product data.
No, there's no product data, there's anything but the emails, would put a standard group.
Yeah. There's that same bead detail there. Not venting. Yeah, I don't have I can't point to anything to say this is the approved gold standard.
If the commission were to continue the application today, what materials would you like to see from the applicant for the next review? For whatever they propose for this, next meeting, sorry. I'm shivering, I'm a little cold, so.
I think what needs to be seen is what product or application, if it's a manufactured product, what's the shop drawing detail of that? If it's a handcrafted product, like what Ned mentioned, just a cut section of what that soffit looks like, if it's gonna be a mesh in there and the board's held back. I think we just need to understand what the proposed solution is gonna be. if there is a manufactured product that's more strip like that, you'd like to propose, is that gonna hang down from that detail is really gonna be an enhanced sketch detail, is really what we're looking for, to understand what's gonna look like.
All right.
What is the timing to provide this?
The deadline for the June agenda will be May 9th. So you need to submit additional materials before May 9th. And that would be for the June 5th hearing. After that, I believe the deadline for July is June 6th.
Would the German Village Commission communicate with Paula Turner so that I don't have a 6-month imprisonment and a $1,000 fine?
Yes, she typically checks the minutes or just steps to my desk and asks, so I would report that to her.
We don't, as long as you have an active application before, so continuing the application is active, the city doesn't take action. So we're not gonna say you gotta get what's there, take it out right now. We're not gonna make you put holes in your house right now.
It specifically says on the notice that goes out that they won't give any notice that they are taking action. So it's a little disconcerting when they send out that letter of communication.
Yeah.
It's a little heavy handed.
For just I hope there's never any for future reference, but for the record, for future reference, they do send a 15-day notice typically for things like this. After the 30-day notice, a 15-day notice if the action will be moving forward. So, but I hope that information is never needed.
Yeah. Yeah. The roof strip. Yeah.
The whole thing is it's not just minimal visual impact. Not obtrusive.
Quite honestly, around
You start asking for specific soffit information.
Because they put on the speaker.
Anything else?
Any of this updated information, I send it to Paula. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Paola.
Paola, okay.
You would send it to us or to the GVC email to me
Okay.
to put on the June materials.
Gotcha.
Correct. We've had code orders that have been put on properties and they've been before us a few months after, much longer than it should take. And we've never had any issues with them coming after you. As long as there's an active application that's being worked on, they don't have.
She does check in with us before moving forward with any action for German Village cases as well. In terms of, not the issuing of the violation, but the before further action is taken for the violation.
So to move forward, my recommendation is you continue the application. Obviously, you have the option for us to vote on it as is, which you probably won't get approval. By continuing it, it puts you right on top on the agenda for next month. You don't have to start following the process or anything. If we do vote and it's a no-go, that does open up avenues to appeal if you wanted to go that route. You can come back to appeal to us on hardship cases, and there's a whole criteria for that. You can go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. You can go to mediation, I think that's another option. But to get to those paths, we have to make a ruling on the application. So,
And I think if you want us to proceed as submitted and we said no, your clock starts ticking on what you just talked about.
my recommendation is you continue, but I'm not gonna tell you you have to. What would you like us to do?
Continue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, on item GV 240502101-103 Thurman Avenue, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you for coming in. We've got nobody else in the audience. Conceptual number 8 for 199 Burger Alley. Commission want to talk about it, or just want to just continue that one? Is anybody here to do that comments? Any communication from the applicant?
Not about attending this meeting, but if the commission does want to provide any feedback, I will relay that to the applicant.
Yeah, I'd like to see property lines.
Property lines?
'Cause I think they're improving their neighbor's property. I walked it.
So then we have 2 applications to continue. First one is item number 8, GB-24-05-023 199 Burger.
It is a conceptual application.
Yes, okay. Okay, do anything, no action taken.
Yes.
Number 5.
Go back to number 5, GB-24-05-020, South 4th Street.
I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have, the motion passes. There's no old business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Against?